Thank you for the warm
Do you guys have stuff in there?
and joyful welcome.
Let's just
yes,
grab it.
Today, in fact, we are talking about art and NFTs somewhere, maybe, potentially, if there's something on the screen. If not, you're just going to have to listen to me talk. You might be out of luck. Hey, there we go. All right, so we're going to start with a little bit about me, just to give some context. I am Rebekka. I work for SuperTeam. I'm one of the co-founders here in SuperTeam Germany, which is Solana's expansion into the German region. I also am co-founder of the NFT Club Berlin. We're the largest IRL NFT organization, we think, in Europe, but we don't know. My academic background is in art and anthropology and Buddhism, so that kind of brings everything together, and I bring my academic and art side into Web3, which I think is a little bit missing, but is really, really fascinating to me. And since we're a little bit more business context today, I thought we could bring in some of the arts and tell you a little bit about why I think art and NFTs is really, really revolutionary, and some of the touch points as well. So there's all these different intersections, right? So we have traditional artists, traditional galleries, traditional art collectors, and now we have emerging NFT artists, NFT marketplaces, metaverse galleries, and NFT collectors. And the way they interact is also really, really fascinating, because there's some traditional artists that are becoming NFT artists and vice versa. There are NFT marketplaces and traditional galleries also having interactions, and metaverse galleries is an entirely new way to show your art as well. And NFT collecting and art collecting in general is undergoing quite a large revolution right now. So starting with the creators and the artists, there are so many reasons that NFTs are really, really interesting and valuable for creators. Some of the very brief highlights that you actually get direct ownership of your work. Typically in traditional galleries, you sell your work, you give it to a gallery, you never see your artwork again, you don't really know who collects it, it's just kind of gone. You can maybe contact the gallery and find it eventually, but you don't have any ownership of your artwork once it leaves. With the blockchain, you can see exactly where it goes, who owns it, and where it gets collected and redistributed, or on the secondary market, for example. You can track your prices, you can track your collectors, and you can have direct relationships with them as well. Reoccurring income from royalties is incredibly revolutionary for artists. Previously, you sold your artwork. That was the only interaction monetarily that you would get. Now with royalties, typically artists will put their royalties between 5 and 15%. So every time your artwork is sold on the secondary market, you get a cut from that sale, which makes being an artist that much more sustainable, and really, really, it completely changes how artists engage with their artwork as well. There's a really low barrier to entry, so getting into traditional galleries is incredibly challenging. You have to know somebody in the echelons to open those doors for you. Either ways, they're gate kept. You can really choose what kind of marketplace you want to be on. Things like Solana allow people to mint their artwork for next to nothing, just a few cents, which lowers the barrier of entry globally as well. You have your choice of distribution, like I say, blockchain, marketplace. You can trace your artwork and ownership, like I mentioned previously. And there's also community, which is really unusual in terms of artists. And you are welcomed into this international community. We have, especially on Solana, we have many artist collectives that support artists, kind of showing them how to mint artworks, how to distribute their work, how to engage with collectors, and it's a much more communal, uplifting experience compared to just sitting at home by yourself making your art. And for me, that's one of the biggest draws as well to the world of NFTs for artists. As well, there are many different forms of art that have not been previously been able to be collected. For example, previously, how do you collect an animation? Animators are incredible arts. It's an incredible art form, and unless you actually use NFTs and the ability to have digital asset ownership, there is no way to collect a digital painting, generative art, 3D art, virtual reality art, AI art, or animation. The only way up until now is to really just print something out, have a physical, and sell it. However, now NFTs are giving artists of all different mediums really new and exciting opportunities. Collectors is a topic I think is really interesting. We have a few stats here from the Art and Tech Report, which is a almost annual report brought out actually by friends in Berlin, and they research all different topics around collecting NFTs, specifically collecting art NFTs, because we're talking, the art NFT world is very separate than the PFP collecting world. So on the left, you can see that only 25% of fine art collectors think it's important to have potential profits when you're buying your NFTs, which is potentially the opposite compared to how people engage with PFPs and flipping, where it's almost entirely about profit. And on the right-hand side, we can see the poll of what makes good art NFT, and 88% is actually a strong artistic concept. And at the very bottom, 26% say that it has to be by an established artist from the traditional art world, which shows that collectors, it really doesn't matter to them if the artist has been successful in the traditional art world, which, like I previously mentioned, it opens so many opportunities and breaks down so many barriers for artists that haven't been able to get a foothold in the traditional art space. This is also really, really interesting as well. These are questions that the collectors answered about what they think the top 3 innovations associated with NFTs, art NFTs are. And 66% said decentralized certificates of authenticity, ownership, and provenance, which for a collector is really valuable. If you collect art and you might not have a physical piece of paper of ownership, it's really, really hard to verify the artist, the owner, especially on really high-priced artworks as well, once you get into a certain realm of forgery and all these different aspects. But with the blockchain, you can very clearly see the provenance, the authenticity, and the certificate showing where you bought it, when you bought it, who you bought it from, that it lives in your wallet, etc. Galleries is a really interesting aspect as well. There are a lot of traditional galleries that have really kind of cold feet about getting into NFTs. And it's really challenging their ideas of their entire business model. So it is very slow going in the traditional art market. But what I think is also really interesting is what's happening in the metaverse, because having the ability to curate and have a gallery space that anybody can create is democratizing also curation and gallery experiences. So here are 2 examples. Coda is on the right. It's a Solana-based collective. They are doing monthly exhibitions. And so they have all of the artwork up in a spatial gallery, and the artists get together on Twitter Spaces, and they can talk about their artwork. You wander around the gallery together. You can see all the different pieces, and you get to learn about the different artists. It's an international crowd, and you get to understand what their ideas are, why they make what they do. And there's a lot of collectors that also join to give, they're interested in knowing about new artists, and it's a great way to get a sense for somebody and what they do and why they do it. So using the metaverse as a gallery and social tool, exhibit and experience art. And really, anyone can do this. It democratizes the exhibition and curation process, because previously you needed to have a physical space. You needed to have a physical gallery where you exhibited art, which has a huge overhead, and it's not possible for most anybody. So now artists are creating their own galleries. Top left is actually my gallery, and bottom right is a gallery from a dear friend, also a very successful Solana artist, and he created his own structure as well. So not only are the galleries showing the artwork, but it's allowing artists to express themselves in architectural design and all of these different aspects as well. So some of the main questions that I think are really, really pertinent are wondering, what are the different streams, landscapes of the art culture ecosystem engaging with NFTs? For example, the artists that are already trying to onboard themselves, the artists that are just curious how there's all these interactions between, like I said on the first slide, the traditional artists, NFT artists, traditional galleries, metaverse galleries. How are they all interacting, and how are they influencing each other? Because there's some traditional galleries that are getting interested in having sort of mirrored versions of their gallery in the metaverse as well. And seeing how these interact is really, really fascinating, and I think we're only at the very tip of our iceberg here. what are the challenges that traditional artists face when entering the NFT space? There is a huge hurdle for a lot of artists that are not tech savvy. They, like myself, when I first started into NFTs, no concept of what a wallet is or how to get started. It's very intimidating. So trying to onboard artists, and especially into our really warm-hearted collective communities, what we do on Solana, and also actually doing IRL meetings as well, holding artists' hands and showing them exactly what they need to do in terms of minting, in terms of wallet creation, in terms of security, showing them how to use hardware wallets, for example. And also showing how artists are expressing themselves online, not just in Metaverse, but also through different diverse social media platforms, because the marketing as an NFT artist is also very different than a traditional one. I think it's really fascinating to also look at how Metaverse galleries are democratizing art curation and display. Like I mentioned, anyone can create a gallery, and previously the gatekeeping of curation was so rigid, and now we're actually getting to a point where anybody can do it, and anybody can gather that experience and create something for themselves and for other artists. And lastly, what are the main hurdles for traditional galleries engaging with NFTs? I think this is going to be one of the biggest challenges that we see, but NFTs entering the traditional art market is absolutely one of the most revolutionary things that has happened in the traditional art world in hundreds of years. The traditional art scene has been entirely closed off and rigid for a very, very long time, and we can see the very slow baby steps. Where we're based in Berlin, for example, we've done exhibitions with various galleries, and showing them that it is possible to engage differently and open their minds and get them a little less fearful of Web3, because Web3 and the traditional art world are very, very far apart, and our goal as artists, creators, and also as our super team Germany is to help bring artists and creators into Web3 in a very supportive and kind way, where they can learn to flourish, actually meet really wonderful people, and support themselves with all the incredible technology, for example, royalties and understanding ownership. And I think we're at the very beginning stages, but in the next 10, 15, maybe 20 years, the entire art market is going to be entirely revolutionized. So, thank you very much for your attention. I think my moderator is coming back. Thank you. I hope it sparks your interest to potentially check out One of One art, especially in the Solana space, because it is one of the hidden gems. And thank you.
So we have 2 more minutes. So who has a question? Any questions? We have a mic runner now. Okay, he has a question.
Thank you. So which program did you use for making your own art gallery on Solana? I'm not sure if that's on Solana or on like a different platform actually.
Absolutely. So there are a few different options.
Could you please repeat the question?
Oh, yes. The question was, what kind of metaverse galleries do I use, also Solana related? There are 2 main ones that I personally use. So Solaris is a Solana-based gallery that a lot of collectors use, actually. So they show off their different collections. Collector.sh is also a really great resource for collectors on Solana, where you can show off all of the art that you have, also for secondary sales. The other gallery that I showed, where I have also a lot of my art, is called Spatial. It's not necessarily Web3 specific, because you can upload any of your artwork directly from your computer. It doesn't need to be attached to a wallet. And there's a lot of flexibility, and Spatial is a very kind of user-friendly general platform that I also use.
Thanks a lot, Rebekka. So clap your hands again. Thanks for your speech.